Hello there and welcome to this vlog of November 2023, and today's video is going to be very similar to the one that I did this time last year, which is going to be what does 2024 have in store for BattleTech. I was thinking about the format of this video, and I think I will do this as not even, it's not going to be annual, it will actually be bi-annual, because I usually do like a midpoint like assessment of how the year is going as well. So I'll try and kind of factor that into the calendar all the time. Just interesting, I suppose, to speak about it as a bit of a thought piece. So I've not got any notes or anything like that. I just kind of want to shoot from the hip and discuss the state of affairs across BattleTech at this current moment in time. I think when I do the end of year one though, I'll probably firstly I'll kind of cover it as like what's happened this year, what's changed, and how things have grown, or if we had any disappointments, and then I'll discuss like what I think will happen next year and a few predictions, that kind of thing. So when I did this video last year, I distinctly remember titling it something like 2023, the year of BattleTech, or something quite dramatic like that. I think that really holds up, though. I think 2023 has been an absolutely phenomenal year for BattleTech. The big thing and I'm not going to rehash too much on this, but the most important thing that happened by some way was the Kickstarter back in March. You know, this is well documented now. Took in $7.5 million. Extraordinarily, impressive campaign. The community really came together. I think we really knocked it out of the park. CGL, I'm sure, are delighted with it. At the moment, everything looks rosy. So I did a video on this a few weeks ago in terms of some news that we got about the Kickstarter. A lot of the plastic looks to have been done already. Presumably now it's getting boxed, and I'm guessing it will either be shipped before Christmas or just after Christmas, in terms of from China. So we won't see it, until I don't know, between March and June next year. But that's still absolutely within the time frames that they gave us. So all is good. I mean, again, a lot of things can happen between now and then, but the Kickstarter campaign itself, there were a few hiccups. I'm not going to revisit them here, but generally speaking, I think it was job well done. Made a ton of money, and I'm just having seen it's like DFA have some of the new models that Aaron and Tom have actually played with. So I think they got some of the, I think someone at CGL sent them either some of the force packs or just some of the individual new models, and they look absolutely fantastic. So I think this next Kickstarter is going to be a big step up in quality from the last one. And the last one was great as well. So, yeah, we're in good times, really. Other things that happened this year that I thought were really, really important on the digital front. Some good, some not so good. The big good was that I think MechWarrior 5 has now really kind of established itself as a solid game. They've brought out numerous DLCs this year. They had the, well, actually, that might have been over the last 18, 24 months. But this year they brought out the Rasselhag expansion, and they brought out the Draconis Combine War of 3039 expansion. I've not actually played the 3039 expansion yet, because I had a completed save that had kind of got up to 3045 or something like that, and then you can't, I don't think it will let you do the 3039 expansion because it's several years after that happened. So what I did is I started a new save, and I think I'm in 3028 now or something like that. So I think within the next 6 months, I'm no doubt will have got up to 3039 and then can play that expansion. I know you don't have to do it that way. You can just kind of play it from scratch, but I really do like MechWarrior 5. I kind of have it on as it's a bit of meditation. I don't play it for hours at a time. It's if I don't know, it's if I'm working from home and it's a lunch hour, and I'll be oh, you know what, I'll just have a couple of missions on MechWarrior 5. So I kind of just do it at a slow pace. And then hopefully when and this will go into next year's, we'll talk about, they're doing the clan expansion next year. So by the time the clan expansion comes out, I'll hopefully have a save that's like in 3045 again, and I can just then ride into the clan invasion era with my save. Obviously, you will be able to play as the clans as well, so you can start in 3050 as one of the clans, so that's something that I'll do as well. But on the MechWarrior 5 front, I think that they're just now in a much better place. I've said this before on the channel, I'm not a massive MechWarrior player, but I think for what it is, MechWarrior is an absolutely fine, decent game. On the negative side, we had some, and I actually did a specific video on this just a few weeks ago, so if you don't know about that, you can watch that, or, there are other news outlets as well that have discussed this. Harebrained Schemes, who are the developers of the 2018 BattleTech game, looks like they are in significant trouble now. So Microsoft, I'm saying this, there's nothing definitive just yet, but I would imagine that Microsoft are not going to be giving the license out anytime soon. And I think if the BattleTech license for, like the strategy side of games, not MechWarrior, but more like the Mech Commander type games, it will either go to another company or it will be shelved. Can I see Microsoft doing a version of the game themselves? No, I don't think so. I don't think we'd want that either. I think Microsoft don't have a great reputation when it comes to games at the moment. So, I'd hope that they would like sub-license it out for someone to develop. But, I said this on the video that I did a few weeks ago, the mod community have really kind of taken the mantle on now of like the Harebrained Schemes game, and I think as long as we have a turn-based game that looks like and feels like the tabletop experience, I am absolutely delighted with that. So, it's disappointing that we've not got an official like clan version of like the strategy game or whatever, but hey ho, you can't have everything. And it's more like, honestly, Harebrained Schemes that I feel very bad for, because I really do think that they've been absolutely intrinsic to getting BattleTech off the ground again over the last several years, and it's just sad to see like so many people losing their jobs, and especially like in the run up to Christmas, it's not good. So yeah, 2023, I think generally it was an incredible year for BattleTech, but again, and I think I said this on the video that I did a few weeks ago with Harebrained Schemes. The Harebrained Schemes thing is really the only failure that we've had in BattleTech for the last like 5 years. Apart from that, it's just been on this like monumental like upwards tangent. So yeah, I don't think anything will end, so to speak, BattleTech anytime soon, because I think the IP is in a stronger place than it's been since like the early 90s, and it was very strong back then. So there we go. So that's 2023 in a nutshell. Obviously, there's been lots of other things, but they're the main ones, obviously. 2024 then. 2024 should be a massive year for BattleTech, because for those of you that don't know, it is the 40th anniversary next year. I always find that quite interesting that I think I'm about 6 months older than BattleTech. It's my birthday in a few weeks. So BattleTech is just slightly older than I am. So I've had my 40th year this year. BattleTech's is next year. That makes me feel very old, because everyone just says that BattleTech is one of the oldest gaming IPs. So there we are. Anyway, but next year then, I think it will be big. I don't think it's going to be 2023 big. I think we've had that like massive jump, and now I expect it to go a little bit more, like status quo. The first thing to note is that there will not be a Kickstarter next year. Obviously, the Kickstarter will get delivered hopefully between, as I say, like March and June next year. Catalyst would be absolutely crazy to do another Kickstarter so soon after. I think they need at least like a year just to kind of see how the finances are and the retail projections, and just to basically reset the team as well. Like, you do not want a small team like that having to do Kickstarter after Kickstarter on that level. It's absolutely brutal. So I am very, very sure we won't get another Kickstarter next year. but I'm absolutely certain we'll get a lot of interesting things. It being the like the 40th anniversary, and I do believe that there is going to be a. I think this is what I read somewhere. There's going to be like a big news drop in early December, so no doubt I'll do a video on that when it comes out as well, or when that news comes out. But like I think they'll talk about what is planned for next year, and they might give a little bit more insight. So I wanted to, this reason why I wanted to do this video, so I can do it before it actually happens, so I can potentially predict some things. So one of the big things that I think we'll get this year, and this has been promised already, but I think it's already in the pipeline, is I think they'll really go hard on the force packs for like the Inner Sphere forces or the clan forces. That is something I have been desperate for them to do for a long time. I won't go into that in too much detail because I have copiously covered this topic before about why I think it's really important for like branding and brand recognition to get like a Federated Suns pack and a Lyran Commonwealth pack. The only questions that I think we have around it is like, what eras will they be in? I'm sure that, I mean, the boxes that they put out look fantastic anyway. So I'm really interested to see like, like the Lyran box, it's going to be blue and it's going to look like it's going to have the, the logo of the, like the Lyran Commonwealth on there. And it might have some like, like, I don't know, some art for some of the characters or things like that. Are they all going to be Ilkhan? Are they going to do something like, they're going to keep it to the, I suppose, the prime area of the BattleTech, like eras, which I suppose I'd say is probably Succession War, like Clan Invasion. But, again, are they just going to go in and think, well, we're in the clan Ilkhan era now, so we're just going to do Ilkhan? What we do know, what they have basically speculated, I don't know if this was set in stone, but they did say that they would give us Inner Sphere Omnimax. That then makes me think that they might just do it as not era specific, but they might just do like a, like a Federated Suns across the eras, lance or whatever. So in that you might get like the Templar, which is I think that's like a Fedcom Civil War, or maybe just before that, like Inner Sphere Fedcom Omnimac. And then they might do some like a repose of a classic like Federated Suns mech, and then like 2 new variants, something like that, and just give it in that nice packaging. I absolutely think that is a shoe-in that we'll get this. I've seen a lot of people at CGL talk about it several times. I think it just depends on like how these force packs will look and what they are comprised of. I'd hope as well that they'll expand it beyond the Inner Sphere. So it would be nice to get like like a Clan Jade Falcon, like Lance Star, where they can put in like the really specific Clan Jade Falcon mechs. You've got mechs there like Jade Falcon to me, and I'm not a clan player obviously, but they've got those mechs that have got like weird and wonderful tech on there, and they've got like a distinctive look. They look like clues in the title, right? Falcon, so they've got like that bird type feel to them. So could you do a pack where like the mechs look similar to kind of how the Force is as a like a wider I say brand, it's not really brand, it's more just in keeping with a how that particular the look and feel of a particular Force. I think that would be really interesting. I'd really like to see something like that. It allows them to do more specific stuff as well. So I think that will certainly be. I'm guessing that probably will be announced in December. Much like last year, they did the announcement for all the mercenary packs. So not the Kickstarter itself, but the bespoke mercenary packs. Like you could get the Kellhounds pack and the the Eridani Lighthorse pack. I think that the Force packs will be the next iteration to that. In terms of, I suppose let's veer onto the commercial side of this then. I think next year, something that might fly under the radar a little bit, but I think it will be massive. I think we will finally get worldwide distribution centres for BattleTech. Now, if you are in North America watching this, you'll probably think, well, that has no impact on me. And yeah, technically it doesn't, as a primary factor. But the secondary factor is that if you want BattleTech to be a global force and to have like similar levels of pull to, say, a company like Games Workshop, then they really do need to sort out their distribution centres. My understanding is that the head honchos at CGL were in Europe for multiple conferences over the last 12 months. While they were here, they were meeting with the companies that offer those distribution centre options. That would be game changing, I think, for BattleTech, because if you look at the metrics of who plays and buys BattleTech, the UK is now a very solid second behind the US. I think traditionally it was always like Germany, potentially Australia, but the UK has really kind of rocketed in front now. It's no coincidence, because when I think it was Randall and Lauren came to the UK, they basically did a little tour of the UK. They were in my neck of the woods up in Leeds, although I'm not living in Leeds anymore, but that's where I'm from. They'd done they did one of the big Kickstarter events up there with some people in Leeds. They then went down to the big gaming conference in Birmingham and had a big stall there. So they're not ignoring us, and I think the distribution centres are the second part of that. I don't, honestly, for the UK, I don't think it's massively important, because we tend to get really decent retail experience anyway. So for instance, and there's some exceptions to this, but when the Force Packs go out to Kickstarter and then they're available at stores in America, it won't be too many months after that they just kind of filter down and get into our stores over here. I mean, I use a company in Cheshire for a lot of my wargaming materials, a company called Alchemist Workshop, who are well worth checking out if you're in the UK, because they do phenomenal, it's great service, really quick delivery, and they've got tons of BattleTech stuff. And they seem to get a lot of stuff in. Even now you can go on there, you can find they've got multiple Force Packs in stock. So, it's not too bad for us. Where I think this is really important, though, is for Australia. Australia always, and I know I have people who watch this from Australia and New Zealand as well, and I'm guessing wider Asia, but obviously wider Asia is not massively into BattleTech. It's much more kind of focused in on Australia and New Zealand. But Australia always get the rotten end of the stick when it comes to the hobby. Ask anyone who's Australian who gets Games Workshop stuff. It costs them a fortune. It's a nightmare to get. The shipping's incredibly expensive. Distribution centres would fix much of that, because the distribution centres can basically act as that hub to get the product into that country, and then they can distribute it out to the retailers, as opposed to it going direct to the retailers, which means that you're cutting out that ability for somewhere to have a house just full of a warehouse, full of BattleTech stuff. So I think distribution centres, I think if they got, this is how, again, I don't know anything really, it's up to Catalyst how they do this, but for me it would be one in the UK, one in mainland Europe, so I'm guessing Germany, and one in Australia. Potentially as well one in Japan. I know Mecca is obviously massive in Japan, but BattleTech I don't think is, but that could potentially be something that they look at. That gives you kind of the Southeast Asian market then, with Australia being more towards the, I don't know what you call it. The distances for me are just incredible because I'm British. So for me, 30 miles is a long way away. But there you're talking a distribution centre in Australia, I don't think is necessarily going to cater to your Japanese audience or your Korean audience. But I don't know, maybe it could. I don't live over there. So yeah, that's going to be a big one, I think. And I think that is in the pipeline. I mean, even if it doesn't get off the ground, they certainly want to do it. Again, on the commercial front, we've got CGL. I think will expand considerably next year. They've already got, I'm guessing now they've got dozens of staff, and then they've got a lot of artists and short-term contractors, writers on the books. I really do think though that Catalyst have got a mind to be an actual proper miniatures company. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean the Games Workshop model, whereby you have got an actual factory producing the miniatures. I really do think that is their long-term goal. I don't know if they'll ever get that. I don't know if they can do it, but that's where the money is, right? What you don't want to have to do is to do your Kickstarters, do it all in China, where lots of things can go wrong politically and with the shipping and everything else. COVID's a great example of that, obviously. So, I think you look at the Games Workshop model, right? Games Workshop, and I've said this many times, their factory is about 5 miles in that direction. And that will save a ton of money for Games Workshop. I mean, yes, the overheads are expensive, but the brand is big enough that they churn out so many products and so many like miniatures. Games Workshop, I think, have a model whereby all the cardboard and the rule books, things like that, get made in Asia, and then I think they get shipped over. But all the actual plastics get made here. I think that's the case anyway. I'm not 100% sure, but that's why sometimes they have like distribution issues, because they have all the plastic miniatures, they just don't have the rule books and the cardboard boxes to put them in. So it's never going to be perfect, and Games Workshop are a good example of that because they do get things wrong. Obviously, I mean, we've had this recently with the reimagining of Epic, where it's still not out and it doesn't look like it's coming out anytime soon, because they were saying before Christmas. Well, it's now, you know, what, 5-6 weeks to Christmas and still no word on it. So who knows? But I would imagine that the plastics are all done. It's just that there's been, I think they did say they had a problem with the like the rule book, maybe not in terms of printing, but in terms of they found errors in it. So if Catalyst did go like in-house when it came to actually making the products, I do think they'd have to, you know, they'd still have to get like third party to do the engagement. But I think getting a third party to do your plastics can be slightly, you know, dangerous, especially for a game now as big as BattleTech. So we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, I think it would be better for all of us if it was brought in-house. I've said this many times before. It's probably quite a contrarian view. I would happily pay more for the force packs that I think are just incredibly good value. I mean, when you're getting like 4 or 5 mechs for between like $20 and $30, that's really affordable, right? Like compare that to the prices at Games Workshop, and it's significantly cheaper. So, you know, like if it meant that things went up by $5 or $6, I think that, I mean, I'd certainly take that cost on board, in the knowledge that it was getting made in a place where we had like security to get it made without there being any kind of like major like product disruption to it. But important to note, I'm not an expert in this field. I don't know anything about like the plastics industry really. It's just, and I've heard people from CGL say before that they couldn't get it made in America by a third party. So, you know, is it something that's even sustainable to do over there? Well, all I can say is from my own experiences, I know that Games Workshop do it, and they're a British company, and the British and the American market won't be a million miles away from each other in terms of what we can get access to. So I think, like, yeah, so to kind of surmise the tabletop stuff next year, I think it will be solid, but I don't think we're going to get any like major news drops. I think it will be just like a growth, you know, like review by CGL. I think they want to see kind of what happens to like the retail numbers after the Kickstarter goes and gets delivered to everybody. So it's going to be an interesting year, but I wouldn't expect them to be pulling up any trees. I think they'll probably do quite a lot of like sentimental stuff. So you might get some weird and wonderful stuff from like BattleTech's history, you know, that just kind of, you know, makes an appearance because it's the 40th year anniversary. So I don't know, they might do something like a commemorative Star League pack or something like that. So I think it's going to be more like novelty this year as opposed to kind of like the building block. And that's fine because 2023 was one of the real foundation years. So happy for them to do something a little bit more like freaky and fun over 2024. On the digital front, then, I've already touched on this a little bit, but obviously the big news next year, and it's good that this is happening the 40th year anniversary, is that we're getting the clan expansion for MechWarrior 5. That's going to be huge. In fact, I think MechWarrior 5 could be really game-changing for BattleTech over the next few years because it really is a solid game. I don't know how they're going to do this clan expansion yet. For me, and I'm quite happy to do this, if they charge $30, $35 for it and it's just basically a new game but it's built on the same system, I'm absolutely fine with that. I think, you know, they can obviously keep improving it, and every DLC patch I've noticed that they've improved things for MechWarrior 5, so that's great. This now really kind of gets us into the thick of it though when you get into Clan Invasion, because there is so many new mechs and so much new equipment and new story arcs and new factions and things of that nature. I suppose last thing to touch on then is if that's the Mech Warrior side, which is the shooty side of games, are we going to get anything for the strategy side? Again, do I think Microsoft will do this? No, I don't. But I do think that they'll be looking for someone else to buy that or to franchise it from them. If it's not Harebrained Schemes, we've just got to pray that a good developer get access to it. Knowing Microsoft, and Microsoft are obviously one of the most successful companies on the planet, so they're no mugs. So if they see that the BattleTech IP is doing very, very well, they'll want to cash in on that. So expect like potentially a bigger studio having to come in and try and get the IP off them, or to basically rent the IP so that they can then make a strategy game. I'd love to see that happen. I'd actually love to see. How do I put this? So I love the Harebrained Scheme game. I think it's absolutely brilliant, but it's turn-based, and I love turn-based games, so I'm completely at ease with that. But what I'd love is a Mech Commander 3, right? That is what I want. I want in the new graphic format a Mech Commander 3. Yes, please. That would be incredible. So basically a real-time top-down BattleTech game. I get shudders thinking about that. That could be absolutely incredible. And if they could do that, or like announce that in the 40th year, birthday year of BattleTech, that would keep me very, very happy. I'm hoping that there'll be a lot of companies really interested in that, because they could even run it as a Kickstarter, much like Harebrained Schemes did. I mean, we've proven that we, as a fan base, we are incredibly committed. So yeah, not that anyone from a big studio is watching this, but praying that someone up there takes the risk on it, takes the punt, and just does it. Because if they make a good job of it, they'll have an incredibly successful, profitable game on their hands. As well, I think with BattleTech, because the custodians of the IP are really like, they love the IP, right? So it's people like Jordan Weissman, who is like really committed to BattleTech and has done so much in it across the years. He's obviously one of the fundamental founding fathers of BattleTech, but then he did the Harebrained Scheme game, or he helped on that in 2018. He was one of the founding members of that. So, usually I think if Microsoft are going to do things like this, someone from our community who we trust will get drafted in to do the production on it, to make sure that it's all kosher and looks good and it feels like BattleTech. So, yeah, I'm enthusiastic about that, and I'd love to see that. And I think that really is the last piece of the puzzle that we need, is an updated real-time strategy game, because tabletop is flying, Mech Warrior's flying, and then the one thing, the strategical side of the digital IP is the one thing that's just slightly suffering right now. So that's it, really. That's my synopsis. No fireworks like last year. I'll just probably call this video something quite acidine, like, what does 2024 hold in store for BattleTech? Whereas I think last year it was like 2023, amazing year for will be an amazing year for BattleTech, which it certainly has been. So yeah, growth year, celebrationary year, but not one of the fundamental years. I do think 2023 will be remembered as one of those like quintessential landmarks in the history of the IP. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I will thank you very much for watching, and I will hopefully catch you again next time.